What's going on, YouTube? JT's Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we are about to conclude the final chapter of the Lazarus Contract Storyline. It was a big 4-part crossover, began with Titans 11, then it moved to Teen Titans number 8, then we moved to Deathstroke 19, and we are at this issue, which is Teen Titans Special number 1, Lazarus Contract, whatever the hell the title of this thing is. I'll know on, I'll have to check Comixology again because I'm still kind of confused on what exactly to title this issue, but it is the finale to the Lazarus Contract Storyline, which crossed over again with the 4 issues, and this is a very interesting one. This one was written by Christopher Priest. The story was by Priest, Dan Abbott, and Benjamin Percy, and there's a couple of people on the arts. This is a nice, long, extra-sized, longer issue. It's about 40 pages. Look at this. Look how dated this is. Wonder Woman. Now we're having ads for Wonder Woman 84. Time sure flies by, doesn't it? So let's go ahead and summarize what happens in this issue. Again, it's the big finale, and there are some gripes I definitely kind of have with this one. That's more to do with kind of the writing of certain characters. But then again, I'm seeing so much stuff now, it doesn't even affect me really anymore because I know things kind of got better. But yes, this one's written by Christopher Priest, so of course things kind of jump around back and forth. Basically, those people who took Grant in were working for Hive. They wanted to use him to get access to Deathstroke, and we can see little bits here and there. Deathstroke is still trying to go save his son through time, and basically Grant back then didn't know that Slade was Deathstroke, and that was basically his idol. He was so excited, he was such a fanboy, but then he realized, oh shit, you're my deadbeat father, you're my piece of shit dad who I ran away from in the first place, so screw you, I'm kind of out of this thing. And Slade actually accidentally knocked him out, and he's thinking, okay, I gotta go back in time to siphon off more of the Speed Force. So then we have the Titans themselves. Damian is still really, really pissed at Kid Flash. Like, he is just really, really pissed off about him. And again, everyone's kind of calling them out on the nonsense of it. Basically, like, Wallace is really pissed off. Wallace is feeling really guilty for everything that happened. Again, like, he was doing stuff that he probably shouldn't have been doing, but his heart's in the right place. And of course, they all start to kind of go off. And what I didn't like, because in the last issue, we saw that Nightwing and Damian were like, okay, we got to be on the same page. And you'd think Nightwing would be like, okay, Kid Flash, you're allowed to come on the plane with us. But Damian's just like, weight limits, buddy. We don't have this. Well, he's done enough damage for one day. Raven's pissed at Damian. Again, they're really making him out to be a real jerk, and that's kind of where a lot of my gripes come with it, because he can be an asshole and he's a bit of a brat, but this is taking it a bit much, I think. Like, to an extent, like, I get he's pissed off and the consequences of things, but they're singling him out over everybody else. Now I'm like, that doesn't like showcase good leadership skills at all. I thought, you know, even he's made mistakes in the past. I figured like he'd be pissed, maybe bench him, but like, this is just getting to kind of like a bad point. You're leaving Wally, this is what we're doing, is being cruel, but then again, Wally doesn't have a Speed Force powers, so it's probably not the best idea. And again, there's a lot of things at stake right now. Everyone else is kind of like, there's a sense of urgency to this, and even they meet up with Jericho, and they're basically attempting to go and find Slade before he goes and severely alters time. Again, this jumps around a lot. Then we have a nice moment between Jackson, Hyde, and Wallace. And Wallace is like, okay, I got to do this to save everything. Then through some kind of complicated means, you kind of have to read the issue to kind of really summarize it. Again, this thing jumps around a lot. They're able to like link up to Wally and Jericho's powers to kind of create something. Pretty much everyone's powers are utilized, and they travel back through time. But they can't really alter things too much because they want to like track down Slade Wilson. So heck, you guys, relax. You're among friends. So this is Dick Grayson meeting young Dick Grayson. Already Deathstroke. Nothing to worry about, Boy Wonder. Okay, this is kind of a funny bit right here. Look at him. He's so excited to meet, like, the younger version of Dick Grayson. He shoves Nightwing out of the way. He's got that smug, cocky, arrogant face there we're just about to pursue. Sure, let us help. And then Damian does something kind of unexpected. He hits Wallace, who, you know, keep in mind, has super speed, so he really should have seen this coming. But I guess not. So Damian makes a move, and he basically stops Wally's heart to basically cut Deathstroke off from the Speed Force power. So he does this, which ultimately does like stop Deathstroke from severely damaging the entire timeline and destroying kind of everyone in the first place. He temporarily stops his heart. So, and they kind of create a cascading effect which sends them back through time and all this other things. It's basically a technique that temporarily stops someone's heart. So in a way, they kind of die for a few seconds, but then they come right back. And then elsewhere, we have Wallace meeting up with Billy Wintergreen, and Slade is still trying to make up for his past sins. He's still trying to save Grant, but ultimately he can't do it. And Wintergreen basically dives into who Slade is, and he brings up a good point. Having totally ruined this relationship with Simon daughter, and basically the entire planet he's basically saying, like, Slade has his severe problems. He's like, the entire planet is at risk simply because this man is incapable of hugging his children. Because Slade can't just do the right thing. He can't just straight up say he's sorry. He's just too much of a stubborn ass. And that's where all these problems kind of stem from. And if Slade would just kind of just do stuff like that, they wouldn't really be in this situation per se. So Wally's heart kind of stops. And this, again, has consequences later on. Dick is grabbing Damien, stopping him from doing things. Everyone's concerned. Wally don't die. Wallace is there. Wallace gets his Speed Force powers back. So in a way, he did technically save the universe from getting imploded, but, you know, he did in kind of a dickheadish type way. So basically, everyone gets their powers back. The temporal field collapses. They all revert back to the present. And again, time is altered, but it doesn't seem like it's altered that much. I don't know. Time travel gets so complicated. You've taken my son. Again, Slade is really ticked off. And then Slade decides he's going to have to go back in time to try and get his son back. And inevitably, Slade gets trapped inside of the Speed Force. And that's where Wallace West comes back in. Everyone's like, hey, you know what? Because all the people who've dealt with Deathstroke are just like, hey, you know what? He's gone. Deathstroke has entered the Speed Force. There's no getting. He's like, then we win. Chalk this up. It's over. Literally every single person is happy about this. And they're like, thank God, Deathstroke is trapped in the Speed Force. We don't have to deal with his ass anymore. We're pretty good. And that's where Wallace West comes in. He's just like, how can we call ourselves heroes? And, you know, he's standing on the moral high ground, which, again, showcases, I guess, some of his strong character. No one's happy about it. Damien seems happy. The guy, again, everyone else who's dealt with him are just like, all right, well, he's gone. We don't have to deal with him. He's like, he's a huge threat to the world. He's not dead. He's just trapped somewhere. So we don't have to deal with him anymore. And again, even at the end of this issue, like, they don't really arrest Slade or anything. They kind of just let him go off anyway, so to do more things, which is kind of annoying. Do a reserve. So he's like, okay, if we don't try to help him and just kind of leave him there, we're not really that good of heroes. So Slade isn't dead. He's just trapped in another place, basically for all eternity. So they wouldn't have to deal with him. He wouldn't be dead, but he'd basically just be, like, gone forever. So Wally decides, without really knowing the depths of his powers, that he's basically going to doom everyone again. He's basically putting the entire world at risk again just to save Slade. So that showcases more strong character of him as a heroic figure, but it also puts the entire world at risk, and that's where kind of the debate happens. So then they have to do kind of like this crazy, like, rope tether. Again, when it gets to the Speed Force and stuff like this, it gets really kind of, like, it's kind of harder to explain, but they basically have to stick together. Raven creates, like, a psychic link to Wally, but Wally's fears cause more problems, and then Wallace is doing his thing, entering into the Speed Force really kind of for the first time. Everybody's kind of out of sync. That's when Jackson Hyde shows up. This is where we kind of get to the funniest part of the whole entire issue. Probably one of the funniest panels of all time, because again, there's issues I have sometimes with the way Damien's written in here, but at the same time, there genuinely is one of the funniest comic book moments, panels I've seen. So Raven's kind of locked up here. She's kind of losing track because Wally's fears are causing issues with her telepathic powers, and her soul self could be trapped in there, and everyone else could be trapped in there too, I guess. So Wally's going crazy. Again, I'm just trying to sum this up. A little help here. If Raven loses control, her soul self could get trapped in that Speed Force, and basically Raven senses fear. Okay, so Raven's the rope that holds them to the earth, and she's beginning to fray. If we don't help her, the rope breaks loose, and we lose everyone. Taking Raven to the Speed Force was a terrible miscalculation, so he's kind of in his bratty self. So basically, since Jackson doesn't really know Raven well, he tells Damien's like, okay, you got to find some way to help her. Very well then. Okay, this part here, probably the funniest panel there. He literally... there. This is funny. Like, I mean, this shit's one of the funniest panels. He literally taps her, like, on the head. He's like, there now, child. I'm like, okay, that's an asshole move, But it's also it's also really funny. So I can't help but get a laugh here. But it's followed up by a nice moment here, which I know a lot of fans in general, like shippers, like this moment quite a bit. Raven, Rachel, it's me, Damien. You're safe. No one will hurt you. Not on my watch. Come home, Raven. Your friends are waiting. Okay, again, that's a good moment there. That shows the more compassionate side, which has been missing a lot in this Teen Titans book. But that right there, that's the best moment for him in the entire issue. So in a way, he did save the universe, but he did so kind of like an asshole. So anyways, they all come back through. Mission's accomplished, which only leaves us back where we started. Deathstroke's right here. You damn kids have cost me everything. They're inside the Speed Force. I've seen things no man should ever see. Awareness in all planes. Basically, he's just like, I should kill all of you, but you know what? Fuck it. I've had enough of this shit. Deathstroke is finished. And yet, here's the problem. They don't go after him. Deathstroke just has killed tons of people. They have literally the Titans and the Teen Titans there, and they just kind of just let him walk away. Okay, saving him from trapping in the Speed Force is one thing, but not bringing him in and arresting him for the crimes that he's committed? Like, come on. Like, you're supposed to be heroes. Like, you should apprehend the bad guy, put him in, like, with Amanda Waller and the Suicide Squad, put him in Supermax, put him in some sort of prison instead of just letting him walk out. What the fuckery? So, anyways, then we come there. This is kind of the part written by Percy. This is kind of the aftermath of it. And, again, what he did was incredibly brave. And we get some moments between these two, kind of setting them up as a bit of a relationship, feelings things. Yeah, that was kind of the forced aspect of this run. It really was forced. Like, Percy has written some... He wrote Dinah and Ollie well in his Green Arrow thing, but, like, when it came to some of his other romance stuff, it really didn't click very well. So, basically, Damien comes in there, and again, he still is the youngest member. What's up with his face there with that art style? I don't know, it's just that look he's giving. Basically, he's like, you put pretty much everyone there, and you did this all for a killer because he paid attention to you. I didn't listen. Wallace stands on his ground. He's like, okay, I made the right choice here. He's like, you're not right. That's the thing. You're just not right. I made the right choice here, and you're wrong, clearly. So Damien decides, there's no us anymore, Kid Flash. You're fired. You're fired from the team. And then that's going to set up the next issue. So that's the Teen Titans portion. Then we have the Titans portion. Again, I'm trying to go through this and summarize the whole issue, per se. And Wally has a pacemaker put in his heart as a result of Damien's, like, palm technique, which temporarily stopped his heart, which caused them to put in a pacemaker. I guess his Speed Force healing abilities don't help from heart conditions. I don't know how it all works. It just felt like I kind of forget what happens with Wally. I know we eventually get into stuff like Heroes in Crisis, and then he gets possessed, like, becomes like Dr. Manhattan Wally and all that stuff. I can't remember if this pacemaker thing really leaves a big impact. I don't think it necessarily did, at least to what I remember. And then that's pretty much it there, and that kind of sets up the next arc in Titans. So that's basically it. It kind of leads into a different things. Like, after this, I can't remember what happens in Titans, but with Deathstroke, I know it goes into, like, there's an epilogue that deals with the Defiance team, which had, like, Wallace. It had Terra comes in there at some point, and Slade's kind of having his own version of the team, and that stuff was pretty interesting and quite good. But yeah, so that in a nutshell was the Teen Titans Special 1 Lazarus Contract Finale, whatever the hell the name of this issue is. And you know, back then when this thing came out, I was a little frustrated because also at around this time, Super Sons was being written, and I didn't like the way they wrote Damien's character, per se. Like, again, some of it's really funny, like that genuine moment there. That kind of irked me a bit. It just kind of, like, was really dick-headed-ish, and it kind of felt like some regression. But compared to what we have now, this doesn't seem really that bad. That's kind of where I'm at now, like, going back and rereading this stuff compared to, like, where the Teen Titans book, like, went completely off the rail when we had the post, like, No Justice special. This is nothing. Like, this is, like, not even a big deal to me anymore. But, like, I'm, like, trying to put myself in the mindset of when it came out, and I had gripes with it in that regards. But really, like, other than that, I did think this was a pretty engaging crossover. I thought, for the most part, the characters were written fine. I like the fact that Wallace still kind of stuck to it. Even though he made mistakes, he still kind of stuck to his morals, which it kind of makes it worse when you kind of go, like, further post, like, No Justice. But again, I like the fact that he was like the one person who really kind of stuck to their ground, because he's not really been in contact with Deathstroke, all things considered. But after this arc, I believe he actually went and joined up with the Defiance team and was there for like several issues working alongside Deathstroke, which is interesting because he's somebody whose father was a supervillain. He's looking for a father figure, and Deathstroke kind of somewhat fills that goal a little bit. I like seeing Wallace in the Defiance team and in the Deathstroke books. I think he worked out. I actually liked him in that book more so than I did in Teen Titans, but he did do some really dumb stuff, like he went by accidentally giving his Speed Force powers to Deathstroke, which almost doomed the entire world. So I can understand the frustration at Robin's part, but then again, the previous issues set up that him and Dick were going to be all on the same page, and really Dick kind of took a step back, like at the end of this thing. Like he like really wasn't this big outstanding like leader that he kind of should have been, because he really should have been kind of the main leader of this thing. But it seemed like they kind of just let Damian do whatever he wanted. Like they let this little kid, not really little kid, they let the youngest person out there boss them all around, which in some ways is kind of funny. Like they're taking orders from a 13-year-old when they're all like kind of adults at this point. But some of them like just kind of get forgotten about in this crossover, and that's kind of a shame. It's like you have so many characters on here, and they really kind of focused only on a couple. You focused on Deathstroke, you focused on Kid Flash, Robin, obviously. Nightwing kind of got pushed to the side because he was kind of like the big starting point in this arc, and then he kind of just gets like, you know, pushed to the side. Wally obviously has a role, Jericho does, but some of the other characters, Garth, like Beast Boy, Raven plays a factor, but some of these other characters really don't play much of a role. Like Nightwing plays a small, Donna Troy plays practically no role whatsoever. Tempest does practically nothing. Omen does a little bit, but like some of these other characters are kind of just like backseat characters in this arc, and it's kind of a shame they didn't really find much for them to do. But the primary focus was on Deathstroke trying to save his son. And again, this leads to the Defiance stuff, which is stuff I actually quite liked in the Deathstroke book, which there were some elements that never really got followed up on. Like, who was it? Was it a character, Tanya and Power Girl got trapped somewhere, and we never, like, I guess they're trapped there still, if I remember it. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling incoherently. I like the stuff where they kind of go back in time. Again, the way they kind of wrote Damian was a little bit much. I think they could have toned down on that just a little bit, but again, these are just some minor gripes per se. Again, I'm just where we're at now. Like, it's really not that bad compared to where things are. But I wish we could have done more with. They could have utilized some of the other characters a little bit more. But again, there's some genuinely funny moments. I think Priest in some ways likes writing Damian as a bit of an asshole in his stuff. I think he kind of has fun doing that. I think he has a laugh at it. But again, that's just me speculating. Again, favorite moment of the whole book was, or at least this whole entire issue, definitely was this moment here. This is my favorite panel in this entire issue. It's the one I remember the most, where I just have a good laugh. But again, it's followed. It makes him like an asshole, but it's also pretty funny. And then you get kind of a nice moment here. So, which again, we could have used more of those moments in this book, but I guess not. He's just really pissed at Wally. Other gripes I have, again, I think the Wallace and Raven relationship wasn't really well done in this book. Again, I think most people can generally agree on that. It just feels like I just feel like with Wallace's character, he's just kind of thrown with whoever. They just kind of throw him together with whoever is in the book. And there isn't as much of a role, but I felt like he had more of a role in the Percy. Like he actually had a good focal point here, more so than he did in the Glass run. And again, I liked him going off and kind of doing his own thing in the Defiance arc. So yeah, that's all I basically have to say. Titans was kind of a forgettable comic, if I'm being honest. Teen Titans was better, and same was the Deathstroke book. But again, it leads off into some interesting places. You can go ahead and check those out. Again, the next time I'm going to focus on, I'm strictly focusing on Teen Titans. I'm not really going to go off and do Titans, because again, I just wanted to go through all of Teen Titans. So yeah, overall consensus, I think this was, like, looking at it now, I enjoyed this crossover. Again, I think the first issue was definitely the weakest. This final issue, I don't know I think my favorite of the issues was definitely the second one, but this one is actually still, like, overall, it still was a good crossover. Like, this is still a fine story arc that kind of dived into, like, more issues that Deathstroke has. And again, There's some funny moments. There are some nice moments, and I like how different heroes kind of stood their ground at their morals. But I had some gripes with the way some characters were written at times, and the fact that other characters were just kind of rendered just background characters. They didn't really have much of a role in this book, and that's a bit disappointing. But so is the Lazarus Contract. It was an interesting crossover. It's definitely the best of the it's definitely the best of the crossovers with Deathstroke and the Teen Titans Rebirth stuff. It's way better than the Terminus Agenda, I can tell you that. Even though the Terminus Agenda, like, this was definitely a much better crossover, if I'm being honest. The heroes are definitely a lot more heroic. And in terms of the Teen Titans crossovers, I think the best one is still Super Sons of Tomorrow. But we'll get to that in a little bit, because after this, I think there's a little mini story arc, and then we get into the Return to Kid Flash arc, and then we move off and talk about other things. But anyways, what are your thoughts on Teen Titans Special number 1, the Lazarus Contract? Let me know in the comments section down below. I really appreciate everybody watching these videos, checking them out. Again, I was trying to like do all the crossovers in like quick 4-part videos and just get those all situated out, ready to go. And then I'll just kind of post them all kind of simultaneously, or separate them by like an hour or something. I don't know, just a bit of speculation. But anyways, let me know your thoughts on them. Hit that bell for notifications. Like this video, share it. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. The next Teen Titans issue is coming up soon. Peace.